Well, it's a gorgeous day here in beautiful Tobago, in the Twin Island Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome once again to the program, Transforming Lives One at a Time. I am your host, Deanne, of course, always happy to be in your space. Well, today we will be talking about being a missionary, what it entails, and the work that Ethnos 360 Caribbean has been doing around the globe to bring transformation to lives. My guest today is Leah Dobbins, and she's a board member of Ethnos 360 Caribbean, an advisor in their 2-year online training program as part of the mobilization team, as well as a social media creator. Well, Leah, welcome to the paradise we call Tobago, first of all.
Thank you for having me, Diane.
And welcome to the program, Transforming Lives One at a Time. Leah, well, for a number of years, we have been hearing about missionaries and the work that they do all over the world. But we want to lay a proper foundation for the persons who may be saying missionary. Exactly what is a missionary? Who is a missionary?
Okay, so I would define a missionary as a believer in Jesus Christ who decides to take up the personal mandate of taking the gospel to the unreached people. So a missionary could be anyone. It can be a pastor, it can be someone in ministry, it could also be male or female. It could be married or single.
All right. Yeah. Okay, so anyone who is willing to go.
Yes.
All right. Well, tell us about Ethnos 360 Caribbean. Tell us about its goal, its mission, its vision for persons who may not have heard about this group. Tell us exactly what you do.
Okay, so Ethnos 360 Caribbean is the offspring of Ethnos 360, mainly USA, which was founded in 1942 by a man named Paul Femling, who had a desire to see the gospel taken to the unreached people groups. And so he decided to raise up missionaries from the US, and as they continued to spread the gospel, the organization grew and it became global. And then in 2020, Ethnos 360 Caribbean was birthed from 2 local missionaries from Trinidad who decided that they wanted to see the goal of missionaries from the Caribbean going as well and participating in taking the gospel to the unreached.
Okay, so how many persons approximately from the Caribbean, how many missionaries we have scattered throughout the globe?
Okay, so this is a kind of tricky question to answer because I can't speak for other mission organizations.
Okay.
I do know that there are quite a few mission organizations in the Caribbean that have missionaries, but the reality is that the majority of them are not going to the unreached. So our organization has a very specific niche in that we're going to people that have never heard the gospel before.
Okay. Well, that is, I mean, because at the end of the day, you don't want to be going to persons who have already heard the gospel. You need to go to those who have not heard the gospel.
Yes. That is correct.
Okay, so let's talk about that goal of reaching the entire world with the gospel of Jesus Christ. In your research, approximately how many nations have never heard of the gospel?
So the number is very alarming. So we always tell people that we know that even though Jesus Christ died over 2,000 years ago, there are approximately over 7,000 people groups that still have not heard. They are considered unreached. So the world has over 12,000 people groups. So over 7,000 are considered unreached. And within the 7,000, there is over 3,000 that are considered unreached and unengaged. So the unreached would be classified as those who have less than 2% Christian presence in their people group. But the unreached and unengaged means that there is absolutely no access. There's no one with a plan to reach them with the gospel. There's no church. There's no Bible. There's nothing really there for them to even hear if they wanted to as well. So over 3,000 people groups.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So what strategies have you implemented to close that gap?
Okay, so with our organization, we have decided that we don't want to take the gospel to people that have the opportunity to hear, where they can walk down the street and they have a church.
Okay.
So we train our missionaries to be able to go into those regions. Mainly they are those that are very isolated or hard to access as well. So we train them specifically to go there and reach these peoples. And again, because they are unreached and unengaged, and they haven't had access to the gospel, they have never heard before, the method in which you train, you reach them is quite different in that you cannot just start off with teaching from the New Testament.
Right.
You have to go all the way back to the beginning for them to even understand where the Bible came from, the origins of Christianity, who God is. And so we train missionaries to go there, which means that they have to learn the local language, they have to learn the local culture, they also have to learn the tribal language and culture, they have to engage in Bible translation and teaching literacy. A lot of these people don't know how to read and write in their own language. There's community development projects that they need to do. So there's just a lot that we have to train missionaries to go into these very restricted and low access places to take the gospel to them.
All right. Well, those are some key areas that you spoke about. And of course, we're going to speak about them more in depth a little later on in the program. Tell us about the recently concluded Wyoming. Yes.
Yes.
Wyoming, where persons from around the world were in attendance. I know Brazil, the US, and well, you will fill us in. They were in attendance in Tobago and, of course, in Trinidad. What was the response like, and what exactly
is Wyoming?
Yes.
So people always ask, what does the word Wyoming even mean? Wyoming means to leave one place with a purpose and to go to another place to fulfill that specific purpose.
Okay.
And so with Wyoming, we are focusing on training people to leave this place where they are and to go to another place with a purpose. And for us, that purpose is to take the gospel to the unreached. So Wyoming is about people coming together and having a cross-cultural experience in the place right where they are. People talk about mission trips,
right,
but some people, they are too hesitant to go all the way overseas for the first time to experience what it means to learn a foreign language or culture. It might be intimidating. And so we decided to bring that right here to them so they don't even have to worry about stepping on a plane to get there.
Okay.
So Wyoming is made up of different missionaries who have lived all over in different countries and have ministered and done church planting. And so we come and we have put up a program where people will be able to get educated on what church planting is about, what it takes to do translation. Also, we even have the village simulation where you would actually be going and interacting with some local indigenous people,
yes,
trying to learn the foreign language and culture and just getting your feet wet and beginning to understand what it really takes to do missions cross-culturally.
Right. Well, it was very interesting because I attended the Tobago, the Tobago leg. When I heard about it, I was like, wow, I need to be there. So I did attend it, and I was very, very impressed. There was so much information to learn. There was so much information being disseminated that you can glean from. And it really brought me to the realization how critical it is for us to support missionaries. Sometimes we would hear about it, you would hear about it all through your life. You would hear missionaries, and now and again a missionary might come from this place, or we might be in the offering putting monies for missionaries, but we never really get an in-depth a feel as to what these missionaries really, really do. We know ultimately it's to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ, but to get into the nitty-gritty of it, because as you're rightfully talking about, the culture, and I'm kind of running in front of myself, the culture and even the languages, because going into a totally new place, different culture, you don't know anything about these people, and you're trying to get the information, you're trying to find out what makes them tick, so to speak. So, it was very, very interesting when you heard the reports from the various persons, the various countries that were represented there. And I must say hats off to the team for putting on a really good program. Tell us what the response is. What was the feedback like in both Tobago and Trinidad?
Okay, so the feedback was really good in both places. And for us, we don't just present Wyoming, but we present the next steps of how people can get involved. Like, how can they make this part of their mission, their personal mission?
Right.
And so the feedback was that people said, yes, we want to get training and become equipped to be a part of this. What do we do next? How do we get involved? And so we had quite a number of persons sign up for the next step. And for us, that next step is being equipped through our Bible training program. And so we were just talking recently that I think we have too many people signing up for the Bible training. So they might have to postpone some of them until next year.
Yes. Well, let's talk a little bit about that Bible training program. You said it's a two-year online.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit more about that.
Okay, so this Bible training program that we call Global Equip is 2 years, and it's a hybrid program in that we meet online for 90% of the training, but then once every year we will meet in person for what we will call an intensive, where we will gather together with the students and the advisors, and we will go through some practical training steps and teaching as well, and just challenging them personally. So the program itself is based upon 3 pillars. Regular Bible programs, they really focus on the theological aspect, but we are not reproducing the same thing. For us, we want to focus on biblical teaching, but also character training and also ministry training as well. So it's comprised of 3 different parts. And the reason we do that is because you can have all the theology and understanding in the world, but once you get to the mission field, it is your character that is going to sustain you. It is your relationship with God. It is your ability to endure, to adapt, to change. Also, we want you to be equipped to reaching them and being able to learn a language and a culture and do translation takes specific skills. And so we want to train you in that as well, so that when you get to the mission field, you are set up for success and you don't come back home early because you were not fully prepared.
Right. So this online, it's a training. So how would you know which languages?
Okay, so the program itself does not teach you the language. So this program is just giving you the tools to be able to start learning any language. So they're just showing you the process of what other missionaries have gone through and some of the skills of doing that. But when you actually get to the mission field, when you choose what country you want to go to, then your field leadership and your consultants there will then help you learn that national language and culture.
Right. It's a lot of things.
It's a lot.
It's a lot of things actually coming together. So sometimes we look at the work of missionaries and we just think, well, somebody's just taking themselves and their family and going to another country to live and enjoy life. No, it's not about that.
No, and also something to highlight is that the process of all of this takes 15 to 20 years to complete a work. Some works, if they were fortunate enough, they might get to a really good place at 10 years, but roughly 15 to 20 years of commitment, because you're starting off with the Bible training, then you have another missionary training. Then when you get to the field, you have what we call a E1 training, which you're learning the national language and culture and trying to assimilate. Then from there, then you have the tribal group. So then you move again and you have to learn another language and culture, and the tribal languages take longer than the national languages, so you can take about at least 4 years there. Then when you start to develop, if it doesn't have a written language, then you have to develop the orthography, you have to develop the alphabet, then you have to do translation. And then if the people can't read and write, then you also have to develop literacy materials first before you even start teaching them. And so the years will fly by really quickly as you're really investing a lot. And then even when you start teaching them, that is going to be a process. Then when you have believers now, then you have to disciple them. And the goal is to have a mature functioning church where they have their own elders and pastors and the people under them. So that takes a long time, where we want them to not depend on us fully. We want them to now become independent, where they no longer need us to teach or train them. And then we want them to take another step from that to now they are the ones doing the church planting. So that takes almost a lifetime.
Yes, of course, definitely. Well, I want you to tell our viewers just how important and crucial is the work of the missionary and what kind of impact the missionary has on transforming the lives of persons and communities.
Okay, so the first thing I wanted to highlight there is that the gospel brings light into people's lives. So when we talk about salvation, we are offering them the free gift that God has given us so that they don't perish and go into eternal damnation, but they have eternal life. So that's understood. But then also the gospel brings light into the darkness and the dark ways that they have about them. So for example, in some people groups, they kill their firstborn child. The firstborn child is viewed as a spirit or a demon, so they might kill them. because they don't have an understanding of the sanctity of life or the value of life or the
Right.
presence of God.
Yes.
When missionaries come into that area and they begin to learn the language and culture, and the people begin to see how the missionaries, they don't live in fear, how they respect and love one another, they begin to see what makes them different. And as you continue to preach and to share the gospel with them, then they begin to realize, okay, the ways that we are living, the things that we are doing is not right. And then they might stop doing things like that. And so they are preserving life. Another thing might be like community development. A lot of these places are very poor, so they
Yes.
don't have any running water, they may not have any electricity, they don't have schools. When the missionary is coming there, we're not just preaching, but we're also trying to help improve the quality of life for these
Okay.
people. So then we might help them by digging wells for them.
Right.
Then we might help them with getting electricity. Then we might help them with providing schools or medical care. And so their lives are practically being, transformed as well. So it's both spiritual
Right.
and physical.
So what I'm hearing is that there is a holistic approach. So we cannot just look as the missionary as the person who's just bringing the gospel, because if it is that you are bringing the gospel of Jesus Christ and you're telling persons, this is the life Jesus wants you to live or expect you to live, and they are hungry, they cannot hear you.
Yeah, that is true. And we even see in the New Testament where Jesus, even though he preached to people, he never sent them away hungry.
Yes.
He multiplied the fish and the loaves and he fed them physically as well. So he didn't just take care of their spiritual needs, but also their physical needs.
Of course. So
And
that
so that's what we
holistic
follow.
approach is
Yes.
very important.
Yes.
Yes. Well, at this time, we're going to take our first short break and we'll be right back. You're viewing Transforming Lives one at a time. Stay with us.
If you're wondering where to find top-tier quality tiles and products to refurbish or renovate your wall, floor or pool, well, your worry is over. Come to D-Cells Tile and Ceiling Center, Storbay Local Road, opposite the Bonnecourt Primary School, Tobago, where you will find porcelain, mosaic and ceramic tiles of the highest quality guaranteed. D-Cells Tile and Ceiling Center also stocks thinset, grout, tile cutters and yes, windows. Plus a friendly smile and service that's second to none awaits you. So forget the hassle and get all the quality tiles you need right here in Tobago at D-Cells Tile and Ceiling Center. Call us today at 460-8802, 639-8281. Opens Monday to Saturday from 9 a.m.
Powerlink Graphic Enterprise, Storbay Local Road, Crown Point, Tobago, for a variety of quality printing products, including banners, posters, jerseys, flyers, and more. Graduation packages, get customized grad bags, mugs, newspapers, and the list goes on. Powerlink Graphic Enterprise, open Monday to Saturday from 9 a.m. Call 269-6996. We create ideas that inspire. Hi, I am Deanne, host of Transforming Lives One at a Time, and I would like to introduce you to our brand new segment, Good Vibes, Good News. And this is where you have the opportunity to highlight your good news. You can send your 90 seconds video to our WhatsApp number 868-701-2099. That's 868-701-2099. Let's hear some of the good news that we never hear about. Good vibes, good news. Inspiring hope. Celebrating wins. Truly grateful.
Welcome back to the program. Today we are talking about missionaries. And we have today as our guest, Leah Dobbins. All right, Leah, so for that individual who has the desire, or should I say a calling, I think it just may be a calling, to be a missionary, how do you go about bringing this to fruition with your organization?
Okay, so for the people that we encounter that would love to be a part of missions, the first thing that we encourage them to do is to partner with your local church.
Okay.
We believe that missions isn't just an individual job. We
Right.
believe that God calls the entire church to be a part of taking this gospel. So making sure that your church is on board with what you're doing and supporting you as well. And then we would say the next step would be is to get training and to become equipped, because your ministry is only as good as what you know and the skills that you bring. So we'd encourage you to go to any Bible training. So whether it might be with us, with our online Bible training, or even the in-person trainings that we have at Bible schools, physical Bible schools in different countries,
Yes.
you get that. Then also invest in missionary training. And then from there, we can decide and discuss what country or region you feel like God might be calling you to.
Okay. Well, I want us to talk about some of the churches in Trinidad and Tobago and what has been the response and what you would like to see to these churches. Well, I mean, we now living in a global village, but we're talking about Trinidad and Tobago and, of course, the wider Caribbean. What message would you like to send to the churches?
Okay. So traditionally, I think in the Caribbean, we have been so accustomed to receiving missionaries and external help that has sort of made us comfortable in terms of not feeling the desire and the passion to go out.
Yes.
And so my challenge to the church is that we have received enough. We have been fed enough. And now it is time for us to take up our mantle in the global stage of taking the gospel to the unreached. And to also recognize that this job is not an individual where one person from a church stands up and says, God is calling me, and then they just go off.
Okay.
But that we all need to be involved in supporting one another. The Bible tells us so much that we are all a part of the body. Like we are different members,
Yes.
but of the same one body. And so reaching the unreached takes all the members of the body to see that goal accomplished. So when people think of missionaries, they think of only the person who's learning the language and translation.
Yes.
But you need support missionaries. You need people that will be buying supplies for the missionaries. You need people who will be doing bookkeeping. You need people that would be praying. You need people that would be going. You need people that will be doing member care, making sure that the missionary is emotionally stable and well and healthy.
Right.
You need people that would be counseling. You need pastors encouraging people to give as well. So I am challenging the churches to take up the mantle of taking this gospel to the unreached by supporting the missionaries in your church, by being there, by being a rock for them, so that they know that when they come back home from the field, they are not on their own, but they have a safe place to process. They have
Yes.
believers that have been cheering them on and encouraging them. And also to remember that the reward for this job is not just the missionary. God is going to be rewarding all of us for the part that we played to contributing. And so no contribution is too small. Even just praying for someone daily, God is going to see that faithfulness and reward you the same reward that the missionary who took the steps to go there
Yes.
did as well.
Yes, yes. A little later on in the program, we're going to talk about some other areas that you just touched on there. But I want us to talk about some of the realities and challenges that missionaries may and will encounter from time to time. Of course, I know there are many because, as you rightfully said, they're going into new territory. You've never been there before, culture, so many different things. And of course, taking into consideration that in many instances, families would go on the mission field together.
Yes.
Husband, wife, sometimes a baby, 6 months, 7 months, and their other children are born on the mission field.
Yes.
Let's talk about some of those realities.
Okay, so the reality is, as a missionary, is that you need to be mentally prepared to understand that you are making a sacrifice. Going on the mission field is not going on a vacation as people think. You're actually going to work. And work includes building relationships with people that don't think the same as the way as you. They don't speak the same language as you. They don't view life. They have a different worldview of life. And so you as a missionary, when you go there, you are challenged to become something that you are not.
Okay.
So you leave your home country as yourself. But once you get there, you are now going to become a different person. You are going to change in your character. You're going to change in the way you view life. You're going to change in the way you speak. You're going to change in the way of how you do things. So learning language is very challenging. Spending over 4 hours every day studying the language and then trying to speak to people, being made fun of because you're saying things with a foreign accent, you're saying the wrong words, you're not putting it together. Being a missionary is like when you go overseas there, it's like you become a child all over again.
Right.
You're put in a child space and now you have to start over learning what life means in this culture. Cultures in different countries are totally different, and so you now have to be stripped of your position that you had before, the
Yes.
security that you had before, the way how people may have admired you. All of that is lost, and you start over. So that's the first challenge of becoming a child again.
Yes.
Another challenge is that the things that you felt were comfortable back in your home country, you no longer have those things. So the foods that you like to eat, the
Right.
music that you like to listen to,
Yes.
even the hours that you probably would have liked to stay out and lime, as we say in Trinidad.
Yes.
Some of those things have to be taken away and sacrificed to reach these people, even the way you dress. So like even living in West Africa, having to now wear my head covered with a scarf every single day, having to wear skirts down to the floor every single day.
Right.
You have to give up those freedoms for the goal that you are reaching. And it takes a lot of mental strength to endure this and to say that, you know, the goal that I have here is more important than my personal likes, my personal desires, and I'm willing to forego those things. Even with families that go with children, they have the additional risk of now there is limited medical health care here.
Yes.
So if we get sick, then we have to be prepared that maybe we might not be able to get all the necessary help that we need. And so we have to be prepared in our minds that maybe we might end up dying here. I know I got malaria one time and it was really bad when I was over there. But that is part of the sacrifice and the cost of going there as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's definitely a price to be paid.
Yes.
So it's like you giving up your life, as it were.
Yes.
And that's why you spoke about it's a major sacrifice, because even the things that we have grown accustomed to, we just put on a switch and there's electricity. You turn on the taps and there's water. You can go take a shower. But some of these places, you don't have running water.
Yes.
Some of these places, the diseases and so many. And I mean, it's not to scare persons, it's the reality. It's the reality, especially for places, the rural areas.
Yes. Yes. Even in Trinidad and Tobago, a long drive is 2-3 hours.
Yes.
Then moving to isolated place where a long drive is 10 hours part of the way, then you might have to take an helicopter over into the mountains. Then you might have to go down the river, and you might take 2 days just to get where you're going to.
Wow.
Or it also means when we talk about having food, some of the missionaries, because they are so isolated, they would have to have a supply buyer outside in the major city, buying the things that they need for 3 to 4 months, because it is so difficult to come out of where they are to get in. So you have to plan in advance. What do we need? And if we forget something, then the next 4 months we can't run to a grocery anyway. There's no grocery to go to have any of that. So all of those things are the sacrifices and the inconveniences you might have to go through.
Yes, so we cannot, by the stretch of our imagination, take missionaries and the work that is being done by missionaries for granted, or as something easy that they will give up. Because I know many of us, we're not prepared to give up the finer things of life for the gospel.
Yes.
I mean, we say it, we're gonna, because sometimes some persons are called on the mission field, but some are, as you rightfully said, there are so many other needs that other persons could be praying, they can be supporting, they could be sending, love offerings and stuff to be able to ensure that there is always food on the table for our missionaries.
Yes.
So I don't think we can talk about that enough in terms of the needs, because one thing is for certain, and we are just starting the conversation, there is a need. Because when you look at in terms of the kind of figures that you're talking about of the unreached persons, there is definitely a need.
Yes.
Well, I want us to also talk about missionaries interacting with persons of diverse culture. I want us to go in a little bit more about that, the language barrier and the adjustment kind of period. Well, as you said, it takes some time, years, to be able to adjust. So let's talk a little bit more about that.
Okay, so I would say throughout your missionary journey, there are different key stages that you go through. So when you get to the mission field, the first couple weeks, everything is going to seem amazing because it's new and you have the excitement that I'm coming here to do this.
Yes.
After a couple months, the reality steps in that this is now my new life and I don't just get to hop back on a plane. So I know with our organization, when I was overseas, the first year, you were not allowed to travel anywhere and to leave the mission field because they knew Once you left, you were not coming back. You were not coming back. So you weren't allowed to leave, and people weren't allowed to come and visit you.
Okay.
Because you need to go through that wrestling phase of, okay, this is real.
Yeah.
I'm really here, and I really don't have these comforts anymore. And I really now need to adapt and to now incorporate the local things into my life and survive that way. So then you have the first year. You're also beginning to learn the language. And as you increase in your language capabilities, you will increase in your relationships. Because relationships is about communication.
Of course.
And about understanding the culture as well. So the more you increase, is the deeper relationships you have. And so you begin to gradually let go of your dependency of the former relationships you had in your home culture and begin to rely and depend on those people there as your new friend circle, as your new support.
Wow.
And both of you are learning each other. You're beginning to understand each other's culture. And so you're going to be wrestling. And so I always say, thank God for the local people that are patient enough to help us understand and to be forgiving when we make very huge cultural blunders and mistakes as well. I know I've made some. And they understand that, you know, they are learning and they're patient and they tell us the truth and they correct us so that we don't fall flat on our face every time. So by 2 years now, you should have begin to kind of acclimatize and to find a new normal. By 5 years, you are more settled, you are more capable, you can travel different places, you can, you know, hang out, you are able to spot, okay, this might be belonging to this particular people group, this is for this people group. Because again, each country could have several people groups. So you're beginning to see recognize the facial differences, recognize the linguistic differences as well, recognize the unique aspects of the cultures for each people group. By 10 years now, you should be good.
10 years, you're saying?
Yes, by 10 years, when you're coming up to that 10 mark now, you should be solidified now, where you are not shaken from every little tragedy that you have. You're not really running off to go back home. Within I would say the 2 to 5 year mark, that is the crucial areas where people give up easily and they go back home. I think they have like about almost a 50% rate of between that time span where people leave the mission field. But once you cross over that now, you're a little more stable and reliable in terms of being there.
Wow. And I'm just thinking about in terms of, even as you talk about getting into the diverse culture, even the family, the children, let's say the children 7 and 8 and that kind of, how
do they integrate? So I know with a lot of missionary families, there are 2 things that I think are key. Kids are kids. So anytime a kid sees a kid, they are willing to play, they're willing to hang out, and children actually are able to pick up the language much more easier once they are younger. But the second thing is that the parents, they directly impact how the children are able to integrate. So if, say for instance, the parents, they are the ones that are apprehensive about the people, they are fearful, they would directly impact their kids' ability to feel safe enough to go out and to explore. But if the parents have conditioned the kids that this is amazing, these are not bad people, these are people that we are trying to reach, go out and meet them, you would see that the kids would flourish and they would actually learn the language faster than the parents, and they'll be able to come back and actually help the parents as well in language. So kids, they adapt based upon how you condition them to view what they are experiencing there overseas.
Another area I want us to touch on, because we have to be realistic, right? Your family back home, in terms of some communication, because you send out your brother or your sister or your nephew, and it's like 2 years, you don't know what is happening. What are there any kind of support systems for the families, that the relatives, I should say, that they have left behind? How do we deal with that aspect?
Okay, so I would say that thankfully, because we are in a modern era now, it is not like before, where when families or individuals left, you literally didn't hear from them for months or even a year because you had to send messages by post. Today we have social media, we have Instagram, we have YouTube, you have all those avenues, we have WhatsApp, so you can be in communication with your family much more often. So it's not as though you have left and you are now dead because they don't see you anymore. You are still alive and able to communicate with them. However, the challenge is that because you go to the mission field, you usually spend a couple years before you actually come back home, at least for the first assignment. So that is the challenge, where your family is adjusting to not having you around
Yes.
and worrying about what might be going on. So it is up to the two of you to be communicating as well, to keep each other in the loop about what is happening. But I think as long as there is some level of communication there, they would work through it. And I would also say that families also need to recognize that they play an important role in the success of missionaries.
Yes.
Because there are a lot of families that they are so fearful of their loved ones going across that they almost guilt them into feeling that they shouldn't stay
Yes,
there.
yes.
And then you see people never go to the mission field because their families were
Right,
too fearful.
yes.
Or they go and they come back sooner because their families didn't think that it was good for them to be there.
Understood. Well, earlier we spoke about how the churches and can be able to make impact, to be able to contribute to missionaries. I know it's not possible for everyone to go, and we would have spoken about that, but how can individuals who are not missionaries, individuals, communities, and of course the churches at large, support the work of the missionaries? So how can they still be impactful? Because you want to get the gospel of Jesus Christ out to those who have not heard. I may not be able to go, but how can I support?
Okay, so that's a really good question. Missionaries, they go through a lot of isolation, right? So when you have a supporting church that is really involved in what you're doing, one of the ways they can show that involvement is by remaining in contact. Usually, people say out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
So I know when I go in the mission field,
That's it.
I don't hear from anyone for 2 years or so. When I come back, even though I may have been sending newsletters, updating them, sending videos, they are not taking the time to watch the videos and to
Okay.
understand, so they can't pray intelligently.
Right.
So being mindful that when the missionary sends you communication about what's happening,
Yes.
that you take the time to open the newsletter, that you take the time to watch the pictures, that you take the time to read what is happening and then pray about that. And
Right.
even responding and saying, I've read what you shared and
Okay.
I'm praying for you and I'm supporting. That makes a huge difference than not hearing anything.
Yes.
Also, making sure that when the missionary comes home, that people are there to support their integration back in. So we talk about culture shock when you go.
Yes.
But
when
there's
you
also,
come back,
there's
yeah.
culture shock when you come back as well. And so you need a space where people can understand that you are not fully yourself and you need some time to readjust to being back home.
Correct.
And people that will be willing to understand and to support you, or to take you to the grocery, or to catch you up on what has changed in your country.
Yes.
Because so many things can be changed. Stores that were open when you left, they are no longer there. New brands, and it's just like disorienting for you as well. And
Yes.
so having people fill you in on what has changed, fill you in on the updates, and just help you reintegrate back into society. Your
Right.
church can help you with that.
Yes, yes, yes. All right. Well, at this time, we're going to take our second short break. I tell you, the time is going too quickly today. But we'll be right back. You're viewing Transforming Lives One at a Time. We're talking about missionaries.
If you're wondering where to find top-tier quality tiles and products to refurbish or renovate your wall, floor, or pool, well, your worry is over. Come to DCell's Tile and Ceiling Center, Store Bay Local Road, opposite the Bonnecourt Primary School, Tobago, where you will find porcelain, mosaic, and ceramic tiles of the highest quality guaranteed. DCell's Tile and Ceiling Center also stocks thinset, grout, tile cutters, and yes, windows. Plus, a friendly smile and service that's second to none awaits you. So forget the hassle and get all the quality tiles you need right here in Tobago at DCell's Tile and Ceiling Center. Call us today at 460-8802, 639-8281. Opens Monday to Saturday from 9 a.m.
Powerlink Graphic Enterprise, Storby Local Road, Crown Point, Tobago, for a variety of quality printing products, including banners, posters, jerseys, flyers, and more. Graduation packages, get customized grad bags, mugs, newspapers, and the list goes on. Powerlink Graphic Enterprise, open Monday to Saturday from 9 a.m. Call 269-6996. We create ideas that inspire.
Welcome back to the program. Leah, I want us to touch on volunteerism and some of the skills and talents needed for both the mission field and, of course, the engine room where everything happens. Because, you know, sometimes we think missionary and we just think, okay, we have in these persons, they are well trained and they're going out, but then there's the engine room to keep things. So let's talk a little bit about that and tell us about that engine room.
Okay, so that engine room really is what it is. It is what keeps the machine running.
Yeah.
And so as a missionary, we would not be able to do what we're doing on the field if we did not have support workers. And so we need people that are doing finance, that are able to balance the books for us, that are able to get funds from one country to the other for us. Without that, we would have no money. Okay. We need people that are able to do IT, to help in technology. A lot of missionaries, they probably don't know how to do their prayer cards. They don't know how to send out updates with videos. We need people that are into that can edit stuff for us and send it back to our churches. We also need people like homeschool teachers. When you're in an isolated area where there is no schools, the amount of time that it takes you to homeschool your kids at home is time that you could be spending in the village learning the language and culture. And so we often accept people that come as volunteers and they stay for a year or so and they homeschool the kids so that the missionaries can invest the greatest amount of time with the people. We also need people that are able to be mechanics. Like the cars are always shutting down, there's things to repair. As a missionary, if you spend time trying to do all of that, then you're losing time from the work. So we need people that are able to do, you know, fixing things, doing electrical, even house building. Some of the places that we live, you have to build your house to be able to live out there. So we need people that actually are skilled in building houses. The list goes on, but you don't have to be a missionary only under the context of I'm doing Bible translation and Bible teaching. But there are so many support roles that you can be filling with that.
Okay, so I was just thinking about like carpenters.
Yes.
So they could say, well, okay, you know what? I'm going to volunteer to go to this country for 2 months and build some houses or do some repair work. So sometimes we think it's all about going a nation or a country as a missionary and spending 10 or 15 years. And that could sometimes scare persons. We have to be real. That could sometimes scare persons. But if you have a talent and you want to volunteer and you want to be a part of the people that are actually impacting lives and transforming lives, you can decide, I'm going to take a month off from my job here in Trinidad and Tobago, and I'm going to go and build a couple houses.
Yes, so if you have a missionary from your church that is serving overseas, part of the church's responsibility is to ask the individuals or the teams, what do you need right now? What practical ways can we help you? So sometimes the missionary would say, well, we'd like to build a school for the village. Can you send a team over to build a school? Or we'd like, you know, a well to be dug. Can you come and do that? Or we'd like to teach the villagers how to, you know, do bread making. If you're good, could you come and help us do that? Or jewelry making. There's a vast array of opportunities where people can come and help.
So tell us about the educational drive. Because I know you would more focus on the churches more in terms of getting these kinds of information out. I mean, I know this is a tool of getting the information out, but what else? Is it like you have like a monthly newsletter taken to churches throughout the Caribbean, updating them on what is happening, telling them how they can be involved, that kind of thing? Let's talk about that.
Okay, so we also have a mobilization team, but because Ethnos 360 Caribbean specifically has only started in 2020, we're still developing and trying to get more personnel on board to help us visit the various Caribbean islands. So last year we were able to visit one of those islands that had a Caribbean conference with people from the different islands, and so we were able to present to them about Ethnos Caribbean. We also have a monthly prayer newsletter, so we send that out via social media as well, so individuals can be praying for the various needs as well. And then we try to promote on social media, so on Instagram and Facebook, where we're now trying to build up a following so the word can get out. Even if there are opportunities that arise to go to specific schools like secondary and university as well, to also share, because that generation is the future generation of missions. And so we want to reach and target those young adults.
Of course. I want to give you the opportunity because, as I said, the time is running too quickly today. I want to give you the opportunity to make a call to individuals, because sometimes we look at just the churches, But sometimes there may be individuals, there may be persons within our communities that have a heart and a passion, and they want to see things happen for others. They want to see a life transformed or impacted. How can the average man on the street get involved? I want you to make a call. Tell them how they can get involved. They want to volunteer. They want to volunteer their time, maybe their resources, their finances. How can they be a part of it? And of course, to encourage the church. We spoke on it just a little earlier. But to encourage the church to be more intentional about the work and the support of missionaries, to make a more concerted effort to ensure that their church is more involved and is taking the work of the missionary much more serious.
Yes. So I definitely start off with the church. A starting point would be having a missions board, and having that board be responsible for communicating with all the missionaries and even carrying out efforts to encourage individuals in the church to become missionaries.
Right.
Then I would say from there, also making sure that you are updating the whole assembly regularly, at least once a month, about the different progress of the works and the needs that are there, and then also making calls to individuals in the church who might have a specific skill or time to go and assist those missionaries.
Right.
Then I would also say to be consistent in your giving as well.
Okay.
I think one of the struggles with a lot of missionaries is that they don't receive consistent finances.
Okay.
And so if you're stressed out about finances, that takes away from the time that you can just be focusing on the work. And people don't understand that the support that you give to missionaries is not just for them, because the people in the village are making great demands from the missionaries to help them when they have famine or they can't, their crops fail.
Yes.
They're expecting the missionaries to help. But if the missionaries don't even have enough for themselves to even provide for their basic needs, how are they going to help the villagers? And then that impacts the work, because the villagers are seeing that, well, the missionary is not able to support us in this way and they don't really care about us. So to be consistent in your giving, and I have never met any church or organization that has given too much to missionaries.
Right.
I think people have the fear that if I give a certain amount, then I'm giving too much, and then the missionary will have so much surplus of money and then they will go on vacation. I have never encountered one single missionary that has received too much money.
Yes.
There's always a need. So if you gave and they had a surplus for the month, they would be able to do more projects in that village. So being consistent in your giving, and also considering that as the missionary is making a sacrifice, you as an individual in the church should be feeling as though you are sacrificing as well. And sacrificing for you might be that instead of going on 2 vacations for the year, you can go on one, and the remaining funds you can give to the missionaries to support the work of God. Because at the end of the day, the reward is going to all of you that participated in that. And then for other individuals who have a heart for missions and they want to be involved, I would say connect with your missionaries and ask them to be sending you their updates so that you can be praying for them. And then asking them for where they have specific needs and making yourself available to come across. Even for some churches, it might mean we plan once every year or 2 years that we will take a group from our church and we will go and spend a week or two with the missionary on the field, so that we can practically see what the challenges are that the missionary faces. Because it's one thing for a missionary to write a newsletter, they read it, but they don't really understand until they come across and visit. And I've had that experience where when people actually came across and visited me, they were like, we really had no idea. And they were struggling in that little 2 weeks. So imagine our lifetimes of doing that. So it's important to go and experience yourself.
Yes, and even as you said earlier, you may not be in a position to go physically to be to live in another country and be a missionary there, but certainly you can make a more intentional to be able to assist.
Yes.
And I like the idea of the videos. And that's where the IT persons come in, because yes, newsletter is one. But when you actually show videos of sometimes the places that you live, the areas that you have to navigate on a daily basis, they could really get a feel of it. And even projects like, let's say you spoke about the schools, as they see the construction taking place, they see you know, what is happening, persons tend to like, okay, all right, good. I could see something. There's something about the visual.
Yes, and giving to specific projects too.
That's
We
right.
realize people
Of course,
gravitate to
because
that.
you want to know, I am giving to this, I want to see the progress.
Yes.
I want something tangible that I could say, okay, I am contributing to this. The school was built.
Yes.
This house was built. The children now have clothing, that kind of thing. So I think in that area, even as you continue on that educational drive and letting persons know exactly and see exactly what you all are doing and how lives are being impacted, I think those videos are super critical.
Yes.
Well, Leah, let us get some of the contact information, your social media handles. How can persons contact you if they want to volunteer? I might have a carpenter friend who has 1 month and he wants to help to do something. Tell us about that.
Okay, so if you're interested in learning more about the organization and getting more involved, our social media pages are Ethnos 360 Caribbean. So if you go onto Facebook, you can type in Ethnos 360 Caribbean and you'd see our social media page there. If you go onto Instagram as well, you can type in Ethnos360_Caribbean and you would see us on Instagram. We also have a website as well, which is ethnos360caribbean.org, and you would be able to find us online there. And you can just reach out and send us a message, and then we will be in contact with you about how you can be involved, and we could also keep you in the loop about the different events that we will be having, like YUME,
Yes.
or any conferences like that, so that you can attend and just become more informed of what it takes to be involved and how to partner with us, so that you can decide whether or not this is a right fit as well for you.
Of course, well said. Well, of course, in today's program, you're going to see some videos. We have some lovely videos, some short videos.
YUME for me has been such a beautiful experience in that it has given me the opportunity to step onto the mission field while being right here in Trinidad and Tobago. The opportunity to be exposed to the languages of the tribes as well as a bit of the culture has given me an opportunity to get a taste of what to expect when I'm on the mission field. For those of you who are interested in missions and are a bit hesitant about what you may face, I'm inviting and welcoming you to come be a part of YUME. You can ask anyone who has been here. It is the right opportunity to come and know about sharing the gospel with persons who have not been reached with the gospel. So come, ask anyone. You won't regret it. God bless you.
That was YUME?
YUME,
Right,
yes.
YUME Trinidad, and hopefully we should get some more videos so we could be able to include in the program. Well, Leah, I want to give you the opportunity to highlight an area that maybe we did not discuss, or probably an area that you think you can reiterate that you would really want to resonate with our viewers.
Okay, I would say for my viewers that you are needed and you are a part, and people really underestimate what happens when missionaries come back from the field. When you think about, say for instance, a missionary leaves West Africa and they go to the US first because they need to talk to their supporting churches. They would need a place to stay. A simple thing as being hospitable to that missionary, offering them a room to stay, because hotels cost a lot of money.
Yes.
So even offering them a meal as well, so that they're not stressed out coming back from the field, trying to waste finances on room and lodging.
Okay.
That is necessary. That is needed. A simple thing as reintegrating back and helping them set up a new phone number, because oftentimes when you travel, you could lose your phone number. I've had so many phone numbers over the years.
Yes.
Losing your phone number, having to get a phone that works over here as well. Simple thing like that would be helpful. Even as they're serving overseas, sending them a card saying, we're thinking about you and we're praying for you.
Right.
At Christmas, at major holidays.
Yes.
That lets them know that they are not alone and that this is a partnership. So just making sure that even though you feel you cannot go, you can still participate and contribute by allowing the missionary to feel as though they have a support base behind them that is cheering them on and that is willing to support and partner in any way that they need.
Of course. Well said. Well, one thing I can take away, and I think all of our viewers can take away from this interview, is that there is a lot of work to be done. There is a lot of ground to cover, and we all have to work together, all hands on deck. Everyone needed to ensure that the gospel of Jesus Christ is spread abroad to all and sundry. That's the mandate. That's the mandate. Well, Leah, I want to take the opportunity to thank you so much for so competently handling this topic today, as we dealt extensively about missionary and the work that the missionary does throughout the globe. And we don't take missionaries and our missionaries for granted. We know a lot of sacrifice is made. We know a lot of things that you wanted to do. Sometimes you leave your family undone. Sometimes you leave certain things. You leave your house undone in order to help someone else for the greater good. And I want to say thank you to Ethnos 360 Caribbean, and of course to all and sundry for really sticking with the plan.
Yeah.
You know, so just in case no one else told you today, we appreciate your commitment. We appreciate what you do, and we pray that God is going to continue to broaden your horizon and really make a way so that the gospel of Jesus Christ can be shed abroad. All right, viewers, well, I tell you, it was a full day. A full day, getting so much information on missionaries, and you can play your part. So, of course, we're going to have all the information up on the screen, the social media handles, so you can get in touch and you can get involved with Ethnos 360 Caribbean. One thing is clear, as I said before, there is much to be done, and it's not going to do itself. We have to do the work. All right. I am your host, Deanne. Of course, you can connect with us on our social media platforms. We are on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and of course, TikTok. As usual, I leave you with the definition of transformation, which is an internal shift that brings us into alignment with our fullest potential. Hey, we've got this. See you next time. I leave you with sceneries of beautiful Tobago.